All right, let's call this work session to order of the Kodiak Island Borough Assembly, Thursday, March 26th at 6:30 p.m. We will begin with citizens' comments. Citizen comments, we have one opportunity for that during our work sessions right here at the beginning. For those who wish to call in, the local number is 907-486-3231. Toll-free is 1-855-492-9202. And please turn off your radio or any listening device to prevent feedback. And while you're calling in, for those in the room who wish to speak under citizen comments, please come to the podium and sign in. Turn on the microphone and make sure the green light is on before speaking, and speak directly into the mic. Please state your name for the record and address all remarks to the assembly as a body and not to any member thereof. So we'll give a few seconds for calls. Doors moving. No, okay. All right. Seeing no calls, we'll move on into our agenda items. Oh, sorry. First, manager's comments. I apologize.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Upcoming community events, the Prince William Sound Regional Citizens Advisory Council is having rapid response training. That's Citizens Look at Serves on April 6th and 7th. There is a flyer attached. Comfish Alaska is April 16th through 18th. Our community cleanup day is May 2nd, and Crab Festival is scheduled for May 21st through 25th this year. Since last week, I went to an Alaska Aerospace meeting with Mayor Griffin. I'll let him tell you about that later. Jacob's meeting to discuss the future of how we're handling the leachate treatment plant. I went to the budget meeting for the Mission Tide Gate service area. We had our biweekly meeting with Jensen Yorba Wall. We also had Health Facilities Advisory Board and the Solid Waste Contract Committee this week. On Tuesday night, the Citizens Academy had its third session. Nova and Lena presented an overview of the clerk's department. They did a great job. It was very well received. And we got gifts, so you guys all missed out on gifts. Next week, on the 31st, assessing will be covering their department. Sessions start at 6 p.m. right here in the Assembly chambers if you're interested in going. We solidified our Baylor supervisor job this week. Congratulations to Tom Slagle. Also, we had Michael move up to the network analysis position, so we have a PC tech job open that's new. Upcoming budget dates, service area budgets, which I think we all have now, on the 30th. And our next work session, we will be going over the general fund departments of finance, the clerks, the legislative managers, assessing, and IT. So that'll be a big night. In finance, the 2025 foreclosure process is on. The staff will be filing for a judgment of decree of foreclosure with the courts on or about April 13th. If you're looking to pay off, please call 486-9324 for a proper amount. In information technology, IT department has been assisting engineering and facilities with deploying mobile devices that can access the LTP control software for our new employees out there, so they can take the on-call duties of the LTP plant. They've also had their preliminary meeting with for the cybersecurity infrastructure project contractor, Kodiak. And they're continuing patching and remediating security updates. In assessing, they are working on liquor license investigations for the Shelikoff. As you have probably heard before, there are good cause exemption hearings scheduled for May 21st. As of March 25th, there have been 120 notice of value amounts that have been updated, and they've seen over 700 folks come in or call in and ask questions about their notice of value. We've had 2 requests for appeal to the BOE. No change to our escaped properties yet, or exemption appeals or exemption reconsiderations. So that'll move us on to community development. Chris attended a KDC Housing Steering Committee in which they focused on the implementation of the Housing Action Plan. He also went to the Comprehensive Economic Development Strategy meeting yesterday, and the discussion at that meeting was focusing on a SWOT analysis related to the economic sectors. And then they are also helping for the Alcohol Monitoring Control Office. They worked on the Shelikoff Lodge and the chart room. In engineering facilities at the Solid Waste Contract Committee, the committee reviewed the RFP draft and are asking staff to go back and take out some of the detail that's in there. That next meeting is April 14th, and there should be a new RFP draft before that for the committee to review. The multi-facility elevator modernization project, the second half, the elevator parts are on the island for the hospital. That will start the week of the 6th. The Assembly approved the contract last week for the small-scale destruction testing. That contract is signed. We'll be scheduling as time allows. We also did a 12-hour bucket test. We're asking for a second one to align the next time they shut down for a little bit of maintenance. In the fuel spill assistance world, 3-Tier Alaska is beginning to schedule their trips out to Carluck, so we have movement on that. And in small projects, there's only changes on the top 2. The Port Lions School Emergency Fire Alarm Panel Replacement Project final inspection is tomorrow. So Cody and some school district staff will be flying out to Port Lions tomorrow, and the picnic table replacement contract has been signed, and we're going to begin coordinating with a contractor to put those in. Upcoming meetings are Solid Waste Advisory Board on April 8th, a Solid Waste Contract Committee on April 14th, and there'll be another HFAB on April 21st. Attached to the report tonight is that Prince William Sound Regional Citizens Advisory Council event flyer and the March 2026 Projects Office report. And with that, I'm happy to answer any questions.
Thank you, Amy. Are there any questions for the manager pertinent to the report here? All right, you got off easy. I think I might have gone too fast through the citizen comments. I just wanted to invite the public to come on down. I see our friend Carlene down there, so it's been a while.
She's been learning a lot in the Citizens Academy, though.
Brilliant.
Mm-hmm.
Good evening. My name is Carly McChesney. We have no advocate. A woman that I know lived on the other side of my wall, was hit down here by Gary Stevens' house. Excuse me. People have gone to the city council meeting about it, and others have gone to this room about it, and still, State Senator Gary Stevens sat right there, and Rep. Louise Stute sat right there, and even Gary brought up the topic about the woman who died almost across the street from his house. But we have no advocate. Her husband worked with my brother and lived right next door to him, and this woman lived on the other side of my wall. And then she lived downstairs below my best friend, and then in a rooming house. And have you ever seen the movie Cool Hand Luke? I finally watched it. Movies put me to sleep, and I watched the same one maybe 2 weeks in a row. But the warden was a Southern gentleman, and he said, "What we have here is a failure to communicate." So Cool Hand Luke, he just, the sparkle in his eye and everything's a joke. He kept escaping, and then they kept punishing him more and more. Then he kept escaping, and the dogs would go after him and bring him back until eventually he was a broken man. But it just seems like we need those crossroads painted, because another woman was hit up here by Safeway. And then when I go to lunch at the senior center and the cruise ships are in, the people from the cruise ships ask me, how do we get up onto that road? And there's a steep trail, and it leads right up to Gary Stevens' house. Or you can go up to the bridge, and there's another trail there. I've never climbed that trail. I'm too old to do that. But we really need, apparently it's a state of Alaska problem. And maybe Gary Stevens didn't know that. But we really need an advocate because of the school kids, all the kids walking, the tourists, the people in the hotels. We even had 700 people come up that hill that night. So I don't know who will be that advocate. It would just seem like we need to the state needs to paint the lines. I've wanted to take a bucket of white paint and just throw it across the road, but I don't want to shame my children. So thank you.
Thank you, Carlene. Anyone else?
Good evening, members of the Assembly. I'm here to give you just an update for our Service Area 1 work. Is it acceptable to do it now during this comment period, or should I wait?
What do you think, Amy? I mean, I think
Is it budget related, Jason?
Not really.
Then
Go ahead.
let's go.
Yeah.
It's all budget related.
Right.
No, I mean, but you're not actually talking about budget numbers.
I
Okay.
think it's fine. Yeah.
Okay. Good evening, members of the Assembly. For the record, my name is Jason Bunt. I serve on the Service Area 1 road maintenance board. This winter has kept us busy with plowing and sanding due to icy conditions. We've also experienced some icing issues with culvert pipes. However, due to the continued ditch maintenance led by Chairman Scott Arndt, this impact has been minimal. I would like to recognize him for his work at night with the snow and ice conditions that we've had this year. We're pleased to report a balanced budget for the upcoming year without increasing the mill rate. Currently, we are continuing brushing and ditching along 12 roads that were planned last year, along with some ongoing grading that will happen as soon as things thaw out. Dust control and gravel placement is needed. Woodland Drive will require continued work through this year and into next, and we're developing a project that perhaps will address the lost conditions. We're also in the early stages of planning 6 fields to preserve approximately 5 miles of asphalt while evaluating some new repairs on Police Road between the sides of neighborhoods. Culvert replacement remains ongoing as aging pipes fail, and this work is pretty costly but necessary. Looking ahead, we're planning larger ditching and culvert pipes on Kodiak, Strong Circle, and Cove Drive, along with adjacent properties. We'll also be replenishing our gravel stockpile on Resmont Drive after the winter season and plan to restock sodium chloride this year as well. Our current salt supply remains sufficient. That was pretty much an update of what we have. And I'd like to answer any questions if you have them, although I'm not sure that I can.
Yeah, you'll get your opportunity in the next agenda item. Thank you, Jason. Madam Manager?
We moved the manager's report to right after comment so that we could comment. Can I go
Let's-
out of order and comment to one of the public comments real quick?
Let's go through all of them first, and then if there are any more. Are there any more public comments? Okay, yes, Madam Manager.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. So at the Citizens Academy, Ms. McChesney brought up the issue of crosswalks already, and that I'm the one that told her that it was a state road. So I have an email out to the person who is in charge of that here on what direction to go. How do we advocate for that better? So we are, I don't want to make myself the advocate, but we are finding out what to do and how to advocate for that to happen, both for tourism and just for normal pedestrian traffic. I think that they will listen because of the emergency routes that people use to get to high ground.
Yeah, I would concur. I think I've had conversations with some city council members who went on that tour with DOT when they were down here, and that was a topic of conversation when DOT was down here. Yeah. All right. Okay. Up next, hitting the first agenda item, FY 2027 budget discussions for general fund revenues and service areas with boards. We're going to address the service areas with active boards first, just so that we can get you in and out and on with the rest of your day. Madam Manager.
You just want to go in the order that it's in the packet and keep it easy. The first one is Women's Bay Road Service Area. So we
Yeah,
have people here. Greg, do you want to come up to the?
Yeah,
podium,
anyone from
or-
Women's Bay? Yep, come on down.
My name's Greg Eagle. I'm the chair of the Women's Bay Service Board. Yeah. So I
Just an overview, I think, of, if that's okay with the assembly, just an overview of the budget, and if there are any questions, I'll ask the assembly, yeah.
We pretty much, every year that I've been involved with the circuit board, we've gone through our whole budget. We have a backlog of projects that need to be looked at. We have culverts, a bunch of culverts that need to be done. Like the other fellow here said, we have lots of the ongoing things, like we have old roads and old paved roads, and so there's a lot of maintenance on that asphalt. But replacing roads out there with asphalt, it gets up into the millions of dollars. It's just not feasible. So we fix those, we grade, we ditch, and up till this year, and maybe this year too, we've gone through our budget, and whatever excess we have after winter, we can put towards those projects that are prioritized and backlog. That's pretty much it. It's simply nothing further.
No, thank you. Any questions from the assembly? Mr. Woods?
What projects do you have on the back burner at present?
Just culvert, pretty much, right? Yeah, just culvert repair and then replacement. And there's a lot of them that are just rotting. We've had some of our main roads, all of a sudden there's a hole that will appear in the road, a paved road, that you have to come in, and the culvert is given out underneath, those kind of things. It's just, everything's gotten so old. That stuff was World War II stuff. And it's just, some of it's just well, that pavement wasn't, but what's underneath of it was. So, we have those kind of issues. We don't have any giant projects. We're going to put on the capital project improvement project list. I'm going to try to go for some pavement there, but other than that, for the budget we have, I think we have pretty much everything earmarked for just things that we have waiting to do with culverts and general maintenance.
Thank you.
Any other questions? All right. Thank you very much.
Thanks, guys.
Thanks, Greg.
Next on the list is Service Area 1.
Good evening. My name is Scott Arndt, and I'm current chair of Service District 1. I'll give you a little bit of a overview on it. We had our budget hearing, and we had 3 people show up. One was Assembly Member Bo Whiteside on there, and he basically asked us to consider lowering the mill rate. And we let him know that, give him an example of what costs have recently done, and also the last time we had gone out to bid for a contract was 13 years ago, and at that time we were paying $10 a ton for D1, which is the main gravel used on the road. By the end of the contract, we were paying almost $25 a ton, right at $25, $23 for the E1 because we're using more of the E1 rather than the D1, and then chips. So that had more than doubled. Now it's gone up to over $30 a ton for this year. So we're going to be at roughly, I think, 30 plus another 15% markup. So we'll be at yeah, I hate to even think about it. Originally, 13 years ago, we were paying $150 an hour on grader. The end of our contract there last year, we were paying $175. The new contract for this year that we're currently in is $250 an hour. Now, we're just trying to maintain. There's no way possible to lower the mill rate when we have these kind of increases that have taken place. We also have approximately $9 million worth of pavement on our roads that if you don't keep it up, it will look like Bell's Flats. Just drive out there, you'll see what I mean on it. And we're looking at a we're looking into, it's not going to happen for this year, but ideally for next year, is to chip seal our paved roads again. We did it on approximately half of our roads when the state was doing it here. Now it'll be three years, I think, going on 4. We contracted with the state DOT, and it was employees that came from around southeast to Kodiak to do the work. Chris Goyne, head of South Coast, has made it quite clear that their last 2 years since they did that, there has been no money for maintenance on state highways in South Coast District, which Kodiak is part of. So we're looking at having to try and contract that out and draw up the contract and get the specifications from them. So trying to work with them. The people that worked for the state have now retired, so they don't have a crew that has the experience to do it, which I wish they did. That will be over $500,000 that we'll be looking to invest. To give you an idea, we have an unreserved fund balance of $1,452,000. We have some problems with the asphalt on Leaf Lane, Service District 1, part of Leaf Lane. We haven't figured out what we're going to do there yet, but that's going to get expensive. As we all know, asphalt gets expensive on there. We have problem with culverts. Basically, the standard was what we call CMP, corrugated metal pipe, and those are rusting out. And basically, the iron in our soil is eating the metal, so the bottoms of the culverts go first. And most of the culverts, the bottoms are gone on there. For about the last 10 years, we've been installing HDPE, high-density polyethylene pipe for culverts, which they don't rust, but they don't thaw well either. So as things are freezing up, you then accommodate that water on top of the roads. So there's pros and cons on everything, but our mill rate is proposed to remain the same at 1.5 mills. And we need that in order to try and build the balance up, because at some time pavement does wear out, and we do not have the money there, and it'll end up partially being an assessment when we do go in on the areas to resurface. So if you have any questions, I'm more than willing to answer, but that gives you a little preview on what the different road service districts are encountering.
Thank you, Scott. Any questions? Mr. Ames?
Just one, and it's kind of a general question. Do you appear that chip capping is a very viable way of maintaining and making the asphalt last longer? Is it successful in this environment?
Yes, as long as you use hard rock, not the Kodiak rock. It was not effective when the state came in the first year and used the Kodiak chips. That was a failure within a year on there, at the most 2 years. Normally what we should get when we went into this, it was estimated that we should get at least the 5 years on there, and then you really need to do it again on there. And ideally they like to start chip sealing when it's 2 years old, not when it's new on there. That lets the oily surface wear off, and then the tack binds better to the rock on there. So we've found that it's very effective. And one of the things it does is we don't have to go out and put chips on the paved roads where it has the chip seal, because it gives it a little extra traction on them already. So we've been very happy with it. You'll notice on some of the roads that the state had done, like Resnoff, had worn off and very quickly. The hard rock that was used on the Passag Shack Road is also done quite well there too. So, any other questions? Okay, thank you.
Nope, seeing none. Thank you, Scott.
Up next is Menasha Bay.
Yeah, excuse me. Good evening. Paddy O'Donnell, Chair of the Menasha Bay Road Service. We held our meeting on March 6th. We had 3 people, members of the public present. We also had Borough staff and the Borough contractor present. Went over some of the work we did last year and included some added rock to address guardrails, failed culvert, replaced one of them, filled and crowned road in Marmot, and then added some material to Three Sisters and what have you. Did the same there in areas that were problematic with potholes and what have you. During the discussion, I guess we no longer get the invoices from the borough, so it's a little tricky for us to keep track of what's coming and going. We used to, in the past, have to sign invoices, so we'd recommend at least getting something once a month. And there was a motion made to that effect to receive monthly invoices, just so we can keep track of what's going on. So we're maintaining the budget at 68,000 as we, based on the revenue, and then there's a projected 8,000 interest, but that's just a projection. Not sure how real that is. We will be getting a work program together here. We're going to do a walk around as we do every year, come the thaw, I guess, where we can actually see the ditches and roads and address issues coming up for this year. And we did add from the unreserved fund 50,000 to the budget, anticipating that there'll be a little bit more work in light of the hard winter. And I can tell you, on Mountain View Drive, we haven't done a lot of work there over the years, but because of ditching issues, I myself had to go out and take my shovel and divert water on the road because it was tearing up the road. The worst I've seen it in my almost 30 years living on Mountain View Drive. So that's going to have to be addressed, as well as cleaning out culverts and what had you. But that's the plan anyhow. Do a walkabout and take a look at all the roads, ditching, erosion, trees, culverts and what have you. But again, we won't be able to do that until all the snow is gone, and that's pretty much all I have.
Right. Thank you. Any questions? Any questions for Patty? Oh, yes, go ahead.
Patty, what's your take on the ability of the service district to take on Otmaloy if that paving project goes through?
It's a little bit of waste from us, and that's part of.
Would it be one?
Yeah, it's Service Area 1.
Yeah.
Oh, never mind. I apologize. I thought it would be. I thought I lived in Menasha. Never mind.
Yeah, no, we do Marmot, Three Sisters, and Mount View Drive, and then Bayview is Menasha and I think Bayview and Road and what have you. But there is a map somewhere if you can find it.
Thank you, Patty. Just one question for the manager. So you had mentioned some assistance in tracking invoices, monthly invoices. Just want to check in with Amy.
We have already addressed that. The way the new contract works, if they're not putting in a work order, they don't see the invoice, because if they're going out automatically. But we've talked about it, and Dora, we've come up with a plan for that. Or I don't know if I remember if I talked to Patricia, or we're gonna make sure. Oh, okay. So is that an E&F meeting? Brian is going to send out invoices to them to make sure. And I don't know if you want them monthly, we'll have to Cody, do you remember something different?
Come on down.
So, due to the road service area contracts that changed, there was a little bit of discrepancy there. $10,000 or more, we send the invoices to the chair for approval prior to the work being executed. All normal 800 work, which is snow removal, we just process internally in-house. But the gap was identified that all the service area chairs were not being included in that initial review. And so we're sending it out as kind of a informational email as we process it, so they can keep it and retain it for their records, and we maintain accurate and timely payments to the contractor.
Cool. All right. Thank you, Patty. Appreciate it. Dave, did you want me to bring Scott back up to answer?
I have access to Scott. I can ask.
Okay, all right. Okay, who's next, Amy?
Next up is Bayview, and in the packet tonight, you'll see that their 2027 level 1 is all zeros, and so you have a supplemental, you have lots of supplemental things, but for this, you have Bayview and Mission Tidegate, so you'll have to pull out that new one to see their budget. It was run fresh today at 1 p.m., so it's as good as it gets.
That's this one.
So you had a bunch of paper clipped information. Are you able to find it? Okay. Lots of trees tonight.
Okay, so 2027 level 1 is 18.5.
Yes.
Okay.
So Bayview had their meeting last night, and they just wanted to carry over their 2026 budget. So you won't see any changes between 26 and 27. Just
Okay. Any questions about that? Okay. And let's see, Mission Lake, the Tidegate, sorry.
Do you want to do that? Or would you like to do fire protection area? Sorry, fire protection area 1 is
Yes,
next
that-
officially.
That one's next, I see it, yes.
Mr. Karstens?
Borough Assembly, Mr. Mayor, Manager.
Is the microphone on?
Clerk. Push the button. So I'm Richard Karstens. I'm the board chair for Fire Protection Area 1 Board. During our budget presentation, we were blessed with absolutely no one, which is too bad, because there's a lot of good information there, not only for Borough Assembly members, but for, of course, the people within our district. So either they don't care we're doing such a good job, it just doesn't matter. So.
Yes, that's correct.
So, anyway, that gets a little bit frustrating. But other than that, we continue to have a very vibrant department. Our department is maintaining a steady number of personnel. We lose a few, we get a few. We've lost a couple of good ones. We've got a couple of good ones. But we're fortunate to have a chief that has a lot of certifications and just loves to train. And we have a lot of young volunteers that just eat up this training. Our chief does very good as far as saving money on your money on the training that we get. He gets the maximum amount of bang for the buck. We will send out trained firefighters to be trained and certified as trainers. We send them to such a location, such as we've sent people to the National Fire Academy. We've sent people what it seems like long distance to Maine for swift water training. However, you could go to Maine and get that training a lot cheaper than you could go to Sitka and get the training. And you bring back the certifications, and they train the rest of the staff. We have a very vibrant program as far as teaching Firefighter 1, EMT 1s, or EMT Basic as they call it now, which is all entry-level stuff to get into a fire department anywhere in the country. We're certified to do that. We have officers, fire officer training, certified by certified trainer, our chief, and who's bringing in another individual to train fire officers, etc. So as well as this training, as well as all the training that the men and women at Bayside are getting, we've got a very vibrant cadet program that's going. We're in the second class now, and it's with high school students. And I think total we have in the first class, which are in the second year, we have 3, and in the second class we have either 4 or 5. And it's moving along just fine, and even though we lost the main trainer to a state job in Anchorage, we still have this individual who still assists with the training and setting up the training modules and such, and we have a certified trainer in town doing a very good job. He works for the Borough on the side as well. And so with that, we look at everything else that fire department has to do. One of the main jobs of the Borough is public safety. And our main mission is to provide public safety for the Borough residents, not only the residents of our fire district, but other fire districts as needed. We have mutual aid agreements with both Coast Guard Fire and with City Fire. These are automatic response agreements where you don't have to ask for someone to come. They just automatically come. We've assisted the city with their on-calls and such, and they've needed the help because they've had a tough time with maintaining a full complement of firefighters, and we assist as necessary. We work very well together with EMSs, with their ambulance service, and it's all working just exceedingly well in that respect. Plus, we still do all of our other what we call cat in the tree calls. You know, when you get calls for assistance for this, that, or the other thing, you know, there's always someone to respond. We have, until we could get a real handle on the building project that we have, I shouldn't say building project, it's renovation project of the firehouse. We have repurposed a good portion of the fire hall to provide services to where we have more than just the chief sitting in his apartment upstairs. On weekends, we'll have 2 or 3 other firefighters that voluntarily come down, stay at a repurposed area in the lower portion of the firehouse, and they're there to provide immediate service. So when you get a call out on a weekend, in particular, you're going to get service with a full fire company right off the bat. But our main budgetary concerns, and I know we right now we have a fairly large what do we call it? Cash on hand. Fund balance, yeah, fund balance. We have a fairly large fund balance, but we have one major project coming up, and it's still the renovation, which we're trying to get a handle on. It's really hard right now when we can't really. Well, we're basically having difficulties. I know we're on the CIP list for the project. And I know we know that it's gonna cost quite a few bucks, but that's one of the reasons why we're maintaining this. Plus, we have another engine that's gonna be in need of replacement here within the next couple of years. And all fire apparatus, as you've probably heard, you're depending upon what you get, you're looking at the high sixes to the low seven figures. However, we're looking at getting a scaled down model to where the apparatus will still be able to act as a pumper, carry most of the water that we need, because we still have a in-date 3,000 gallon tender plus new pumper. So we're in fairly good shape. We're in fairly good shape there, but we will be on the clock here shortly to replace the other vehicle. So with those things and the plans that we have for additional training area within our training center, maybe the monies that we have right now we won't be coming to you asking you for more money. I hope. Who knows what's going to happen, but anyway, it's a very good department. You could be proud of it and continue to be proud of it, and they'll continue to do just as good a job as they have been doing for the past since our last meeting here last year. Any questions?
Great. Thank you. Yes, we are very proud of Fire Protection Service. Any questions? It's Mr. Ames and then Mr. Woods.
Not really a question, more a statement. From an outside point of view, it seems that the city and Bayside are getting along much better than they did at least long ago in the past, and that is a good thing.
And Mr. Arndt might be able to tell you about this, but I've been there for well over 30 years, and this is the best they've ever gotten along, both personnel and the chiefs. So.
I'd say a couple things quick, Dick.
Yeah, go ahead.
Basically, it's because of Chief Scott Ellis on there. That's, he's already gone through two chiefs at the city in the short period he's been here. But we're so fortunate, and it's just a blessing what he's capable of, what he brings to this community, not just to Fire District number 1, but to the community. It doesn't get any better.
It's appropriate for Scott to be up here because he's on our fire board too, and so he's been on the fire board a lot of years too. So yeah, it's really quite stunning, the relationship that we have right now. And if you notice, we ended up out at Chiniak. We sent a small team out to Chiniak for a fire a couple of months ago or 6 weeks ago or so, and they made a difference. Most of the time you think by the time you get out there 2 hours or an hour and a half later with the rig that you couldn't do a whole lot. We were able to assist in saving additional buildings with that one rig that was out there. Did not adversely affect the service that any of the people of Fire Protection 1 would expect if they had either an EMS or a fire call, because again, we still have automatic service with the city, and we only sent 2 personnel and 1 rig. So anyway, and they did make a difference, and as far as what it did as far as relationships between at least the borough via Bayside and Chiniak, it was kind of a big deal. It was a big positive for everybody.
Good. Mr. Woods.
Yeah, and there may not be anything, but what non-emergent issues do you see coming up in the next 3, 5, 7? We tend to hear about issues when they're here, not when they're when you see the potential of an issue coming to bear.
Non-emergent issues, as in maintenance type issues?
Maintenance issues, spots for concern, equipment failures that are foreseeable but not immediate.
Well, you can't foresee those equipment failures, or if you have an accident, you have insurance, but it's a whole bunch of dollars. If I figure, I don't know exactly what it is. The deductible is pretty incredible. We're chasing a couple of leaks on the roof. We have a pretty good idea where they're coming from, and we're working on them. And those big doors, we have 8 large doors, and those things are expensive. And you have a door or two fail, and it's just stuff like that. So that's again why you have even that little part of the budget that says contingencies, which I know some assembly members have commented about in past years, but that's what that's for. And that's what we do. But the other thing that we do at Bayside is, as we get a maintenance problem, we take care of it right away. We don't defer. So I hope that answered your question.
Thank you.
Thank you. Ms. Roberts.
Thank you. This is more just words of recognition and praise for the camp that Bayside hosted last summer for the kids. I think that's worth recognizing that it was a huge benefit to the community, so thank you.
That was a great idea. That was the same lady that has ramrodded the cadet program, who's now working for the state in Anchorage, but still helps out. So anyway, yeah, that was really well received by everybody. Yeah, thank you.
Any other questions? All right. Thank you, Mr. Carsons. All right, Amy, who is next?
Next up is the Women's Bay Fire Department, and so the people that left, there's not 2 boards for Women's Bay. They cover the service area and the fire department, and I was like, hey, don't you want to stay for the fire department? They said, that's not our world. So I said, okay. So here we go. The big thing that I had questions about before they left was the change in their use of fund balance. For the 2026 budget, they had $150,000 in their 2027 budget, and they haven't used any of that. In their 2027 budget, they have $250,000. They are planning on paving the north end of their parking lot in front of the firehouse. So in front of the firehouse and to the south is paved, but there is a large gravel part where the basketball courts are going to be. So there will be basketball courts in front of the firehouse, north of the firehouse now. And that also helps them with more space when they are rolling out their lines and doing all the work that they do out there. So that's something that they've been talking about for a long time, and that $150,000 they found out was not going to cover that project, and so that's why there is more in the 27 budget for that. Is there any other questions on that budget?
Okay, seeing none. Last one, right?
Yes.
Tidegate.
So it's the Mission Lake Tidegate. They had their meeting just this week. So again, in that information for agenda item 3A, you will find an update. Mission Lake Tidegate decided to also just move their budget forward. From what they had last year. And you'll see that they're not, their mill rate is 0 for the people who live in that area. They have a fund balance that covers their annual expenses, so they didn't want to collect more money. They're not saving for anything. The only thing that we had weird in the last recent history was someone stole their grate. And so we had they went fishing for it to see if they could find it with magnets and stuff, and we couldn't find it, so Highmark made them a new one, and that's the only like out of the ordinary expense that they've had lately. Sorry, is there someone here from Mission Tide and I'm speaking on their behalf? No, okay. Phew. How rude.
And any other questions about Tigate? Any questions in general about all the service area budgets for the manager? I just had one, with the exception of the Tigate, there's, in raw numbers, right, are increased, but the mill rates for all of them are staying flat, correct?
Yes. And Mr. Smiley asked earlier before the meeting started about why Women's Bay Road Service Area was so high compared to some of the other ones, and that's just because those roads are in really bad condition and they don't have a lot of people paying in, and so in order to even have a chance at maintaining that mill rate has to stay that high.
Mm-hmm.
Painfully so.
Okay, all right, let's move into, thank you, everyone, for coming to talk about your service areas, and fire protection boards really appreciate you coming in, and thank you for keeping your mill rates flat. If you couldn't decrease them, thank you for at least keeping them flat for everyone. So I appreciate y'all coming in. All right, Amy, and I'll just hand it over to Amy for the general fund revenues.
Let's talk about revenues. So this will be the in-depth look instead of the infographic version that we did earlier this season. First thing we're going to look at is real property tax, and you'll see that that number varies widely, and there's nothing in there for the 2027 level 1, and that's because it depends on what our other revenue is and then what we need to pay. We pay a portion of debt service and a portion of the general fund with property tax, but until the other things are decided and the mill rate is decided and we know about what we're going to schedule for school bond debt and what our local contribution is going to be, that there's just a lot of variables in for that number, so I can't give you anything there. There's also a zero in the federal PILT money for the actual amount that we've gotten this year. We do not get that until the last week of June. Last year we got that on June 24th, and so I don't have an actual that I can put in there. Dora and I felt that 1.7 million, given the variety over the last few years from 22 to 25, was a good number to put in there. We also get PILT from KEHA and Alaska Housing. KEHA, that amount is what we get from housing they own, but it is not taxed, and the Alaska Housing is a pass-through with the U.S. Department of Housing and Urban Development. So same thing, just different funding. Any questions on any of those? Okay. Severance taxes, C products, we are scheduling for a 45% reduction from 2025 revenues. I just saw James Jackson over the weekend to hope that he would change that number, and he did not. And so you'll see a $288,000 decrease, although the actual amount of 768, we still have more to add for fiscal year 26. So we're going to be over budget for fiscal year 26. I can't, that one's really hard to guess. And so when we say a 45% reduction, that number is going to go up. So eventually, as we do more versions of the budget, our 2027 estimate will go up as well, depending on what happens to the mill rate. Severance tax is based on the mill rate. If the mill rate goes down, then that number goes down too. So we still have some variables in that. Then you'll see mining for gravel. That is our Brecken money from the pits out in the flats. And then you will see timber, and you will see we've made a whopping $75. That's because we've sold 3 firewood permits. A Fognac has been shut down. Well, they are right now. They're just getting ready to start back up. They have enough timber actually cut out there to ship out an entire load, which is a lot. However, with tariffs, no one wants it. And so it is just sitting there for right now. And so I don't know when that will change. And so I would expect that we would see quite a shortfall for the fiscal year 26 budget in that account. Penalties and interest, that is from the folks who do not pay their bills on time. License and permits, I think all of that is straightforward. We're not expecting a lot of differences, although you will see a decrease a little bit in dog licenses. And I wanted the business licenses for tobacco and marijuana. Those are just guesses. We have no idea who's going to try to attempt to sell either one of those. So that gets us through the first section. And then on to our excise taxes, tobacco excise tax. Again, the actual amount here is just for the first 2 quarters. So we still have 2 more quarters of that to go in, although you will see if those are even, which they aren't always, but we're behind pace by some money if we're for the $800,000 that we budgeted in 2026. The marijuana excise tax, you'll see that that's been 0 ever since 2023. That is just for people who are growing marijuana, not for people who are selling marijuana. So we do not have an excise tax on people who are purchasing. There's no retail excise tax for marijuana. You will see we don't have any ARPA money in the budget. We do have federal shared revenue from the National Wildlife Refuge. No changes in that. We are expecting a decrease in state shared revenues through the fisheries business tax, as well as the business fisheries and landing tax. We put in a 30% reduction from fiscal year 2025 revenues on both of those. PERS on behalf, we are expecting more just because we are getting a 7.84% reimbursement based on our salary estimates for next year. That's assuming that that's funded. That's something that the state decides every year to fund. So we're just assuming that funding. Then you'll see our interest earnings, change in fair market values. You'll see that those are zeros in there for right now because that's not something that we can predict. And then finally, I think the only thing that's remarkable on the rest is that you'll see that $5.8 million in 23 for debt service. That's when our school bond debt was, all of those times we didn't get full school bond debt in 2023. That's when the money was given back to us. As far as revenues, we have lots of expenses going out for school bond debt, but no actual income for that. There must be questions.
There must be questions. Ms. Roberts.
I just wanted to go back to the tobacco and marijuana excise tax. Amy, I emailed you about this to clarify. And like you said, it's just a tax that's specifically tied to cultivation in our code, which was written in 2017. So I'm wondering if, not at this moment, but revisiting that and seeing if it might be worth implementing a tax at sale for marijuana just like it is for tobacco. Because right now there's no revenue on it.
Outside of sales tax. So we have 3 dispensaries, 2 of them are in city limits. So at 2 of the dispensaries, you're paying sales tax. And then there's one out in the flats, which there is no sales tax. So there is no excise tax on marijuana at this time.
Right. So is that, yes, I think we should have a discussion about that. And we can put it on
A work session.
work session, absolutely. Just yellow form it and, yeah. Other questions?
Sweet.
Really? Okay.
A lot of these numbers will change. So
Yes.
just as time goes by, we get more information and we'll update. So you'll have a set of numbers from us that is the official level 1 that you get on April 15th. And then we will not make any changes to that level 1 as we continue discussions. But then as we discuss general fund departments and the assembly has like, oh, put more money in training or, oh, take money out of here, we'll collect all of those and then we'll set a date and that will be the manager's budget level 2. And so We'll let you know like what date those are getting locked in, but you'll continue to see the changes that we discuss as we go through departments. If you would have said, hey, Mission Target, you should collect money, and we'd have changed that, that would come out in level 1, but it would, any of those things can change as we go through the level. So we're not locked into anything until we get to that ordinance at the end, and then, and you can make changes the night of, and often do. Twitching. And so all of that, but a lot, as time goes by, we get more information, and so these will become more accurate. The number that we use, that one I explained for fund balance, that is a night of passing number. That is, you set the mill rate, we figure out how MAPTR affects that, and we can discuss those. That's a whole Excel spreadsheet, and I'll show you how that works. But as we get closer, we'll talk more about that. But that number doesn't, until the 4th, when we're actually hopefully passing the budget, those numbers won't be filled in until that night.
Okay, I'm not seeing any questions, so moving on. Next up is discuss setting the lease rates for the North Star School building. Madam Manager.
Thank you. We have a request to lease out sections of the North Star building. And we have a request from a nonprofit organization to lease all of the space in one wing and the library space, and then 2 classrooms in the second wing. The nonprofit wants a set lease rate so they can make their final decision about whether or not it's fiscally possible in order to move. So in your supplemental pile, you'll see information for agenda item 3B. There is a overly colorful spreadsheet, because if you let me do it, I will add color. And a floor plan with the room numbers listed and the square feet listed and stuff. So on the spreadsheet, what I have put the orange and the yellow, the daycare request use is the orange. And then they are looking to rent 2 more social services offices. That's the yellow. They have not told me what exact classrooms they want, but they are all very close to 800 square feet. So that could be tweaked just a little bit if they want different classrooms than the ones that we picked. One of the Assembly member Gardner, wanted to know what percentage of the space that they were renting. So the blue, those look so close. The long column is all of the actual rooms that are set up, not common areas, not bathrooms, not hallways. And then those same names are on that map. So we came up with a total of 17,354 square feet, and they are looking at 10,746 of them, so about 61.92 of those established classrooms already. Staff suggested $1.20 per square foot, having a monthly total of $12,895.20. That is the same rent that we charge Red Cross and YMCA for the cottages across the street here. In the packet tonight, you have the KAB expenses from when we took the building in July through March 23rd. That total is $109,602.66, with an average monthly rate for that building at $12,178.07. I included some other rental rates, and you can see how highly those small increments escalate the monthly rent there. To aid in your discussion, I did want to point out that the amount of money that we have in there for that $109,000 does not include the boiler gun replacements that we're currently doing, and that's just about $28,000 that will have to get included into those expenses. But until that project is done, you won't see that. But they are there. There are maintenance costs of that building, and that's the one that we've had so far. That's all.
And so what you're looking for from the assembly tonight is to recommend a lease rate for you so you can continue on with the negotiations.
I didn't actually ask your opinion on lease rates for our other buildings, and so we're locked into those. And so if that's something that we should discuss in the future, I'm happy to bring those other rates to the assembly. That's that rate has been very similar. We base those rates on the cost of the cottages. Just, our goal is not to make money, just to cover what we thought the utilities were going to be and what maintenance would be for those. Unfortunately, YMCA has had to see maintenance a lot because something died in one of their walls, and we're trying to figure out where the smell is coming from. So it's one of the fun things of being landlords. They've been very patient. Thank you, Erica Blondin, for your patience. And so I wanted to include what the expenses were, what the monthly expenses look like, and how much we think that the nonprofit should cover. And so I hope that that's enough information, but we're happy to get more if you need more information.
All right, great. All right, let's start it off. Mr. Gardner, then Mr. Smiley, and then Ms. Roberts.
Yeah, I've spoken on this before, so I figured I'd try to go first because probably going to be a little contentious. So first of all, the proposed rent, as far as I can tell, our indications there are what we started charging nonprofits for rentals across the board, and as far as I can tell, that goes back to 1996. So adjusted for inflation today, that's $2.53. We know for a fact that we have a roof repair and other repairs happening over at North Star in the relatively near future. Additionally, now Shunak charges $8.75 a month for children aged 1 to 3 or 0 to 2, one or the other, basically infants. They charge $9.25 a month for children older than that. They either cap out currently at 5 or 7. They currently have 40 kids enrolled and 24 on the waiting list. They would be licensed to have 60 currently in the North Star building if they have the space. They currently rent, to the best of my estimation, between 1,000 and 1,500 square feet at St. Mary's. St. Mary's charges next to nothing. I've rented things from them before. $900 per student at 60 students gets you $54,000 a month or $648,000 a year. If we were doing Shunak a big favor and not completely adjusting for inflation and charging them $2 per square foot, that would still get them a 60% margin on their investment in terms of their lease payment, meaning that they would be paying $256,000 roughly per year while making $648,000 per year, so basically giving a $400,000-ish, not necessarily a profit margin because I'm not bringing in teacher expenses and other things like that. So they want to make a big, massive upgrade. We need to plan ahead and keep this building generating revenue in order to take care of itself, while also taking into mind the fact that these children are going to be, it's great, I love kids, but they're going to cause some wear and tear on the building. And comparing North Star, and I said this before, to our shacks or cottages, as it was put, I don't think is a fair comparison in any way, shape, or form. And just so I don't have to say all these numbers again and just burn your ears, this is going to parlay specifically into the Providence conversation as well moving forward. We need to take a hard look at these lease numbers because we're generating more costs than we are revenue. And at the very least, we have to get ourselves into the black. We do not have the money right now, and we certainly will not have the money next year or any years moving forward in the foreseeable future to oversee some of these expenses without raising taxes. And I don't know about you, but my family cannot afford any more taxes. So that's where I stand on this. Thanks.
Thank you. Mr. Smiley.
Well, I think I agree in part that we should index the cost to the cost of living increases. I don't know that this started in 1996. I don't have any historical information myself, but whatever it was, I think we need to include a cost of living adjustment in there somewhere. On the other hand, it may be that Sunak won't like higher prices a whole lot and say, go fish. So I think it's a balance that we're going to have to achieve. Thank you.
Ms. Roberts and Mr. Ames.
My question was one that Jeremiah brought up, and is the $1.20 per square foot, is that recent from the other buildings? When was that amount set?
Within the last year.
Okay.
I'll get you after Steve. Mr. Ames.
Well, I don't know how much we should charge. I know, some of the numbers thrown out tonight. I can't tell you their exact numbers. I know from someone else out east doing a daycare. When you throw in the numbers of insurance with children, it's pretty outrageous. And then they have expenses, teachers, school supplies, everything else. So there are a lot of other costs besides just rents and trying to run a daycare service. And I don't know what, the max they could afford and make it work is. I don't think they could make it work with the $2 number. Or also looking at the building, I don't think it's fair to, I think we need to come up with a rate that would be proper if they were renting 100% of the building, because you can't expect someone who's renting 62% approximately to pay for everything and maintenance. If I have an apartment building with 5 apartments, but only 3 are rented, I can't expect to adjust those tenants' rent to cover the empty space. So I think we need to look at how we can make this affordable for them and appropriate for us. Possibly come up with a number fairly quickly, because we've been dragging this on for a long time, of what it would cost. At the moment, we're not taking into maintenance, but we are covering the monthly average cost. And coming up $700, which I realize doesn't count for much. But I think we need to figure out a realistic number for what we need to take in if the whole building were rented. Also, I noticed that, and I don't know what the plan is, but in rentable space, the gym has never been mentioned, and that is a large area. And so that should be taken into account, I think, also. I don't know whether we're going to maintain it as a gym and lease to Park and Rec. I don't know how we're going to do this, and I don't think that's been discussed yet. But I think we need to balance out, A, that the only renting part of the building, and B, daycare is a major problem in this town. And so we have to come up with a way somehow that we can help daycare services without costing the taxpayers. Because no, I do not want to see the mill rate go up. I do not want to pay more taxes on my properties. We pay a fair amount. It's kind of a tough thing. If we're trying to come up with an exact number tonight, then I don't really see much over $1.25 or $1.35, because as I said, we're talking about 62% of the building, and that's not even including the gym, which is actually a major space. So we kind of have to make a decision whether we're willing to give a lower rate to nonprofits or not. And then the other question is, do we have any interest in renting any other part of the building from anybody? Thank you.
Thank you. I'm going to take Mr. Woods first because he hasn't spoken yet. Mr. Woods.
Thank you. Kind of summing things up. I don't think we're necessarily called to have to pick a hard number tonight. I think that's.
Yes, we are.
Oh, are we?
Yes,
Okay,
this
super
is
cool.
what this is for.
Awesome. So I kind of see everybody's perspectives here. One, I don't think you can discount the indirect benefits that we gain by a larger availability of daycare here. As it is, we're losing young professional families left and right. Got several friends of mine that have had kids in the last couple years. The wait lists are extreme. The prices are frankly fairly unmanageable for a large number of our community. And it's driving people away actively. I don't think we can really dispute that. That being said, I don't think we should be running a close to zero benefit, not a profit really. We need to be looking forward to expenses. I don't think the $1.20 figure is sufficient. I get that it's not the entire space. However, I would like to see something in the 135 to 145 range, principally because we're going to keep having issues. We're going to have issues we never thought of. And the flexibility to deal with that, I think, is lacking really any lower than that. Thank you.
Thank you. And I'm going to take Mr. Johnson also.
Thank you. I guess I'm the odd one out because I think we start at 120 and add a CPI to it. We were doing 120 with the other nonprofits. Looking at the numbers that have been provided, 120 covers the monthly, what we're currently paying. If we were to rent the other spaces, that would obviously then be money available to cover additional maintenance. As was already said, it's not reasonable to expect somebody, if your apartment building's 60% full, you can't increase your rates to make them pay for the empty apartments. And so we know that childcare is consistently listed as one of the top challenges in this community. We have an opportunity to do something to help with that. Right now, the taxpayers of Kodiak have paid $109,000 this year and gotten nothing for it. So, well,
Sorry, this, that $109,000 actually comes out of buildings and grounds, and the revenue into buildings and grounds is rent from all of our buildings. So it hasn't been actual property tax money that's paying for that. It's out of the buildings and grounds fund, but that won't last forever.
Right. I think that's where we're kind of getting at. Yeah. Thank you, Amy.
So, yeah, I mean, I did a quick search. Typical facility cost for a daycare is 15 to 25% of their revenue, given the numbers that were presented earlier. 25% of the revenue would be just over $13,000 a month. So numbers seem to jive to me. Thanks.
Thank you. Mr. Gardner, thank you for your patience. And then Ms. Roberts.
Firstly, I just wanted to clarify where I pulled $1.20 from, and that was from the Providence lease, which was negotiated in '96 and signed in '97. My dates could be close, but they're not very far off, and that's why I said it's going to parlay into our Providence conversation. So, and going forward, I'm 100% for childcare. I'm 100% for SHUNAC getting in there. I am 100% for negotiating. I came at you with a high number because that's what I'm always going to do in this situation, and negotiate down rather than negotiate up from a low number. So we have to realize that roof is coming up, other maintenance issues are coming up. I really like what Steve said about saying 60% of the building, not including the gym, and thinking about that moving forward. But this is also, a massive upgrade for SHUNAC. I don't understand how they could need this much space for 60 students. And from documentation I've read just in the last few days, that's all they're licensed for. If they're going to have a lot more students in there, that changes their numbers dramatically. 60 students on average at $900 a month gets $648,000 a year. So their revenue is pretty high, even at what I'm talking about lease rate wise. If this expansion in space allows them to double that, now that's going to cost us a lot more maintenance, and it's kind of unfair. So I'm definitely willing to negotiate, but I'm not sure if all of the cards are on the table here. So yeah, like I said, I'm willing to negotiate. $1.20 comes from the nonprofit of Providence. Thanks.
Ms. Roberts. Did you, okay.
I'll wait.
Okay, Ms. Roberts.
No, I'm scared. Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I just did some quick math. At the proposed rent of $1.20 at square foot would bring in just over $154,000 annual. Current cost of running the building is $109,000. That leaves $45,000 difference. The boiler is estimated to cost $24.9. So we'd be able to save some with $1.20 per square foot. I'm not saying that's what I'm endorsing, but I do think that childcare is a very strong need here, and I think that Shunak would be able to provide that. And if they are able to expand in that building, I think that's an even greater benefit for us.
Thank you. Ms. Williams, did you want to?
Thank you. I wanted to address the gym. It has never been our intent to rent the gym. Like, you can't look at the square foot of the gym and be like, oh, I'm going to pay this for a year. My intent, unless you tell me differently, is once we have a tenant, we're going to open up to the community as the community asset that it is and use the school district's scheduling system so it would act like another asset in the school district, so that Little League, soccer, little dribblers, all the things can continue to use that gym. It would be under a scheduling system so that it rotates. From the conversation that you had, and we're not including the gym, and that's a huge space, I can't, unless we were leasing to the YMCA or something like that, I don't see a world in which we're going to get a consistent lease rent rate, square foot rate for the gym. So I did not include that because that's, in my opinion, that's not how that's going to get used. And the school district does have a nominal fee for renting that gym. And I actually just talked to the athletic director today about how they do that and if school districts versus nonprofits versus other groups pay different prices. And that's something that they're re-looking at. But that's, unless you are telling me to do something different, my plan was to put that back into a community asset how it was before the school district gave it to us.
Mr. Ames. But I do want to say, so these are two different conversations than the Shunak lease versus what we're going to do with the gym. So I'd like to just keep this conversation just back to the lease so we can help out staff on that. And if we want to have a gym conversation later, we can have a gym conversation later. Is that okay? Yeah. Okay. Mr. Ames.
No, I understand your idea and I like it. My point is not the rental space there, but it is an expense to keep the gym up to temperature and everything else. And so, just like it's not fair when they're renting 62% to ask them to pay the whole thing, the borough has to accept, either the district or we, that part of the cost of that building is something we have chosen not to rent. And the other tenants shouldn't be responsible for making that up. It's a choice we've made as a community service, and I agree with it. But we just should acknowledge that. And that's, again, I think we need to stick to a very low rent for the daycare.
Mr. Woods.
I can see a lot of wisdom in what Jeremiah is talking about, trying to account for inflation. But I also think we're kind of falling into a situation where we're not necessarily comparing apples to apples. Hospital space is going to be a bit more specialized than office space and classrooms. It's just the nature of that beast. There's just a lot more stuff there. There's a lot great air handlers have to be to certain standards. You have dramatically different needs for that facility. I'm going to reiterate, I think somewhere in that 135, 145 number is probably appropriate. It gives us some leeway. It's not extreme. And frankly, there's not a lot there to maintain, but what is there, we do need to be ready for major projects.
Okay, so what I'm hearing so far is no consensus, but we'll get there. We'll get there. So right now, I think I'm kind of hearing 3, maybe 4. I didn't hear anything specific from Mr. Smiley, but at least 3, keeping it on the very low, on the low end, the proposed end here at $1.20 plus I think a reasonable CPI, or generally just to kind of keep it low. And then we have 1, maybe 2 who would like to see a little tier above that, and then 1 other at least who's looking at, a few tiers above that. So that's just kind of a recap. Mr. Gardner.
Don't worry, I'm going to back off. Relax. Does anybody know offhand, I know this number was given to me 6 months ago or however long it was, what we're looking at for the roof work at North Star and what the timeline was for that?
Originally, when North Star was still in elementary school, it was scheduled for the summer of '27, and we have $1.8 million in a project set aside for that project. The timeline now, because it's not an elementary school, I think that we need to put East in the summer of 2027 because it is an elementary school, and I think our priority is with the school district, even though we own both. So what we are looking at is having East in the summer of '27, and if we're going to make repairs on North Star, it would be summer of '28.
So that money that's set aside would go to East, and we would not have money set aside for North Star in '28.
It is set aside at North Star until we move it in a budget amendment, which you will not be seeing tonight because it's not in this budget amendment, but we could do that. We do, we just met with the school district today, and the school district had about $660,000-ish from the main elementary project that was supposed to go to North Star. We're moving that 660 to East Roof. So we have a 660,000 bump. It might be more like 652. It's a lot. So we have that money that we're moving from North Star. You'll see that come in front of you to actually move it in the next few meetings. But the superintendent just brought that today because it does still stay North Star, so we're moving that to East.
Okay, so in light of the conversation, specifically of what Mr. Ames and Mr. Woods said, reminding ourselves in the midst of what's going on geopolitically, we are going to be paying more and more in heating fuel over there. I tend to send my kid to Shunak for summer daycare. I'm not trying to throw them under the bus here. But I do think we just charge far too little for these buildings, and we don't think ahead in upkeep. And then once this happens, then 5 years down the road, we're stuck with a big red dirty check we have to hand out. So I'm definitely amenable to back down to like 150, 145 and get in that range. I think 120 is far too low.
Mr. Ames, and then Mr. Roberts.
The present roof at North Star, is it patched or sufficient enough that it's not majorly leaking and causing damage?
Well, it's probably frozen right now, Mr. Ames, so it's not leaking.
Okay.
I'm
Come
feeling good about
spring when
that.
it thaws.
So, we have roof design done, getting pushed all the way to 100%. We are ready to rock and roll. There is one member on the ARB who does not like the design. However, it's ready to go. And the architects and project staff agree, and the rest of the ARB agree that the plan that we are doing is the cheapest, best way. We have an opportunity to do the entire roof or just do the parts that are affected by the leak. So given that it is not an elementary school, we will do the parts that are just affected by the leak, which is bigger than you might think. But instead of having, if you're familiar with North Star, it has that huge skylight on the roof that has always leaked forever and ever and ever. It added some fun water features, like little kiddie-sized swimming pools inside the school.
Inside the library.
Inside the library, but there's no books in there now, so it's just a large space. So the new design is solid on the outside and windows on either side. So it won't be as much light, but there will be light, but we do not have to, that is all metal superstructure that would all have to be taken down it becomes more expensive to do some assembly member, yes. So the other plans, and the design is done. So if we change design, yes. So obviously not everyone agrees with that plan, but it's ready to go. And so we would do a smaller plan than we would if it was still an elementary school that would prevent the leak. But because it is our building and we are planning on keeping it for the foreseeable future, we should fix the roof.
Ms. Roberts.
First of all, I have a question for Madam Manager. How long is the lease with the Shunak Daycare Center?
It depends on how long we want to make it. Our usual leases are, well, we said 3 years with a 2-year get-out clause. If circumstances changed in the community or we decided we wanted to sell that building, we would have to give them 2 years' notice. But most of our leases like this are 3 years.
Okay. I'm feeling more comfortable going towards the $1.35 per square foot, just to cushion for, like Assemblymember Gardner said, the heating fuel increase and potentially more maintenance. I know that 3-year-olds are crazy and can cause damage, so I think that it's realistic to budget for some maintenance, whether that's paint or dents in the wall or whatever happens. I think if the lease is for 3 or 2 years, I think we could reevaluate then to what the costs have been. We could look back on the history of what the utilities and maintenance has looked like, and that way we have a history of what it actually cost versus what we're thinking it might cost, and seeing how many kids are actually in the building at that point too.
Mr. Smiley.
Are you envisioning an enterprise fund here where their rent would support maintenance?
I don't think we have enough space rented in order to convert to an enterprise fund. We could make an enterprise fund, and I think that it would be running in a negative for a while.
Quite a while,
We
yeah.
that would
Yeah.
be the goal, yes. But I think we would have to find more renters.
In
To
the
make
pa-
it- oh,
in
sorry.
the past, when we've dealt with that kind of thing, either with the school district or with Providence, up to a certain amount is their responsibility. If it gets higher than that, then it's our responsibility. Are you envisioning some clause like that in the lease with Sunak?
For maintenance,
Yeah.
we don't have that with any of our other rental situations. That we maintain the maintenance on the building, so I have not considered that
So
yet.
KFRC is all us?
No, KFRC has, the rent goes into an R&R fund. So, and then the NOAA's payments, it's based on the percentage of square foot that NOAA rents, and it's just about 75%. So all of those improvements that we do, NOAA pays about 75%, and then that lease readjusts every 5 years because it's a really long lease. So we look at what the expenses have been over the last 5 years, and either they pay us more or they pay us less over the next 5 years to make up what happened the last 5 years. It's a GSA lease. We do not want that kind of lease.
Okay. Well, I'm in favor of the cost of living increases over the 120 per square foot. I think I remember 120 a square foot for Teen Court and Red Cross in the buildings across the street, but that was from years ago. So how long have we been running this?
I don't have the answer on how long we've been running that, but when we figured out that amount, we figured it just to cover the buildings.
Yeah.
We took the average cost of those buildings, how much the heating, oil, and maintenance, and all electric, all the water, sewer, all the things have been, and we just made it so that we covered it. We're not making money, but
Okay. Well, I'm in favor of 120 plus whatever the CIP has been. So.
Mr. Ames.
I think I could live with 120 cost of living. But we do also have to make sure the lease is written properly so everyone understands, you know, are they in they in charge of their cleaning in their section? That the lease just needs to be written properly so everybody understands.
we're pretty good at lease writing around here.
Huh?
We haven't worked out those details. there would be an increase in their rent if they wanted to use our contractor for cleaning. And they will be responsible for their internet and their solid waste, their trash service and all of that. So, yes, that's all details that we haven't even gotten that far. They're just getting their license approvals. And I hate to throw a wrench in things, but like, I think this is a very good conversation for nonprofits. We also have a daycare that's not a nonprofit. Are we, that is just asking for one classroom in the other wing? Would we offer that same rate to them because it is also a daycare, or would we do a different rate for someone who is not a nonprofit? You're welcome.
I was actually really close to getting them somewhere, Amy. Oh, look at all those hands. All right. Ames, then Woods, then Gardner.
They're only interested in one classroom at this point? Okay. Do we have anyone else who's interested in renting any rooms for non-daycare or anything else?
Well, that part of the social services offices from Shunak.
Yeah, well, I saw that.
Yes, but
But I meant besides them.
not any. I have had a lot of requests. None of them included rent. So these are the ones that I have where people were willing to actually pay rent.
Thank you. Mr. Woods.
One, I think if we're looking at something that's a net benefit, I think keeping the same price across the board for daycare is probably a good life choice. Second, this is more a staff-directed question. With y'all's permission, I would kind of love to hear from Cody about what he thinks about potential obvious issues upcoming with what we're planning on doing.
I mean, Cody, by all means, I think you're going to have a lot of clogged toilets.
Yeah.
Well,
Right?
yeah.
I mean, there's a toilet and like a little kid toilet in every classroom. But I mean, these are K through 5 classrooms. It's not, these spaces have seen children. So do you have different answers besides my clogged toilet answer, Cody?
I was just going to point out that in the project's report that North Star roof and skylight replacements in there for $2,123,564. I know that question got asked a couple times about price. I married into a family of daycare owners, the largest in Atlanta, Georgia, and Amy is correct. Lots of clogged toilets, lots of holes in the walls, and the big thing that I don't know that's being discussed, or if it has been discussed because I have not been involved in this, but I have helped my father-in-law countless hours, I hate to admit it, is child-proofing a facility that was not necessarily designed for that level of engagement inside of a room. But those are my only observations.
Mr. Gardner, then Mr. Smiley.
Again, I mean, I think going a little higher is going to be the best idea, especially in light of what Cody just had to say about the $2+ million on the skylight. And I'm not sure what the timeline would be on that, but Mrs. Roberts had something good and smart to say there, and like, I could see backing down to 135 if we can revisit the lease after 1 year, an absolute maximum of 2 years, and assess our costs on running the building with maintenance and fuel like at the top of that list. We cannot bind ourselves into a long lease at a low rate with what we know is going to happen to the building.
Mr. Smiley, and then Mr. Ames, and then Mr. Johnson.
My wife used to work at North Star and one of those classrooms, and they are pretty bulletproof already. They were built for kids, so it's not going to be as bad there as it would be, for instance, in this room. And there won't be holes in the walls, I'm pretty sure. Secondly, I think as to the question of a profit versus a nonprofit institution, I agree with Mr. Woods. They're both providing a service for the same kind of service to the community and keep the costs equal for them, or the rate equal for them. Thank you.
Thank you. Actually, Mr. Ames, I'm going to take Mr. Johnson first. He hasn't taken his second bite at the apple yet.
Thanks. this roof keeps coming up, and I just want to point out, the roof is 32 years old. Expecting a brand-new tenant to pay for it isn't something any landlord would be reasonable to do. So I think, in my opinion, the upcoming potential roof project is a bit of a red herring in the lease discussion, because that is a current condition of the facility, not one that is occurring under a potential new tenant's occupancy.
Thank you. Mr. Ames.
Well, I was going to say something very similar to Mr. Johnson's, that no matter what we do at the building, even if we make a rent and they decide it's too much and don't lease it, we still got to fix the roof. Or we're going to have a building worth nothing. Or we have to sell the building. These are our choices. They're tough ones, but we got to make them. I had one other thought that's slipping my mind at the moment. As far as the damaged kids putting holes in the wall or something, that's something that should be addressed in the lease, that when they leave, the building is in similar condition, except normal wear and tear. Being a landlord, someone's a tenant for 10 years, I'm going to have to replace the carpet. That's normal wear and tear. Holes in the walls, things like that, are not normal wear and tear. And the leasee, no matter what the room's used for, should be responsible for returning it in similar condition it was given to them in. And that's why I said earlier that, a lot of the rent rate, we need to make sure we have a proper lease so these things are covered.
Thank you. And I think we're kind of getting to the end of this. I'll let Mr. Woods talk, and then we'll see where we're at. Ms. Roberts.
Actually, Mr. Chair, I believe she did have her hand up before I did.
Oh, okay. Sorry. Thank you.
Is the playground going to be used by either tenant?
Please do.
I would hope they do, but I also know that playground equipment can wear out very quickly, and it's very expensive, so I think we do need to think about that too. As far as the profit, nonprofit, I agree with everyone that we should just charge the same amount for both.
Thank you. Mr. Woods.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Yeah, the more we talk, the more I like that 135 number. I think a 3-year lease term is not excessive. It does give us a fair degree of flexibility if we're going to continue to see issues geopolitically with oil prices. I'm now very thankful for Cody, now knowing that his family runs a daycare. And Ms. Roberts for pointing stuff out, for pointing out the potential playground issue, because that is going to be somewhat of a source of liability for us if that does wear out and hurts a kid. I think we've got some flexibility there, and yeah, I like that 135 number.
Okay, so what I'm hearing, where we're at is, it sounds like we're split a little bit down the middle with a 135 plus a consumer price index, and then somewhat $1.20, including the CPI. And that CPI adjustment is would be an annual thing.
Compromise.
Okay, so yeah, there we go.
Like
Yes.
compromise. So, 125, 130 could be middle ground. The CPI would cover the geopolitical issues. CPI absolutely is reflective of fuel prices and cost of. Have you seen the list of what they look at? It is ridiculous. But that would at least allow an adjustment if for fuel going up or electricity going up or whatever that might be. That would allow, and I like the idea of just 3 years and then re-looking at the cost. We have an idea of what it costs empty. We do not have a good idea of what it costs full, so.
$1.30, going once.
$1.25.
I was about to say 132.
Let's keep it clean. I'm going to direct, unless I hear strong opinions otherwise, I'm going to direct the borough manager with $1.30 plus CPI. Mr. Garner, one more
Yeah,
chomp.
the whatever, like, clearly we're all kind of split down the middle, like, let's get these guys in there. 130 is not a big deal. One thing I didn't get a chance to address, and I don't have to bring it up in assembly comments later, is the idea of profit and nonprofit entities in there. As far as daycare goes, cool, let's have a separate discussion about that. But I want to make it abundantly clear that, if somebody wants to move a for-profit bike shop into North Star at $1.20, $1.30 a square foot, that's ridiculous. And if we do have a for-profit entity that wants to rent, that's got to be a completely different discussion.
They would have to make it through planning and zoning, and there's no similar use determination for a bike shop.
I was throwing it out there to be
But
funny.
there is-
I was being funny.
I mean, maybe if you taught them, I don't know.
Bike school.
There are, because of the way that is zoned, social services that Shunak is looking automatically we don't need to do a similar use determination, but the daycare did require a similar use determination. But there are some safeguards in there to prevent a for-profit business of any
Copy.
type from going in there.
So we can send you off with $1.30.
Off?
Into the horizon.
Where to work session?
But not in the work session, but a lease the lease will come back to us?
No.
Nope.
Unless, no.
Okay, all right.
We're good at leases. I'm
All
feeling
right.
very
Yes.
comfortable. Because this is new and we've never, and this is something that we might very well be discussing a year from now with a different elementary school. So I think that it's important that we talk about
Yeah.
it in public and make these decisions on these large spaces. Yes, I think a year from now we'll be doing this
Yeah,
exact same thing.
I think
Okay.
you're right. Okay, Mr. Woods.
I'm just clarifying. We landed on 130 plus
130.
the CPI, right?
Correct.
Okay,
Yes.
cool. Excellent.
All right. Let's take a 5-minute break.
Sorry, Dave.
Yeah. We're sending you off.
I knew that was going to be a tough one.
I knew we would. All right. Are we ready, Nova? Okay. We're back. Looking at our third item on the agenda before packet review, which is the Providence reimbursement discussion. Madam Manager.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. We have 4 projects that have been going through the Architectural Review Board and are still being planned by Providence. But we need to have a discussion about how much will be reimbursed for those projects. And so on February 26th of this year, you got a memo from the Engineering Facilities Department penned by our project manager, Cody Allen, pointing out the lease language that says we're responsible for replacements in kind, and he did not feel the projects that were being completed were in kind, and instead they were you said the Ferrari. Of reverse osmosis systems and stuff like that. In your packet, you'll have his letter and a copy of the lease. Just 2 days ago, maybe just yesterday, Cody found a printed out spreadsheet, and we got to go on a treasure hunt through archives of the Kodiak Island Borough. We found you guys have a larger printout copy. Earlier in the week, you were sent the entire study from EMG. This is starting, I think, on page 53 in that study, but even though it's still small, it's a lot easier to read than the one that was emailed to you. And Cody has gone in and added notes on the different pages reflective of the projects that we're currently looking at. And he is here tonight to help walk us through that discussion about what he found in this spreadsheet and how that relates to what we feel the lease says we should be reimbursing.
Come on down.
All right, yeah, price is right, I hope, huh? Okay. Sure, that might be a whole lot. Okay, so quick point of clarification though on the Ferrari comment. When we were reviewing this, and when the manager asked me to kind of pin this memo originally on the 26th, I was just going through what the lease language said on one screen and comparing it to what the requests were on the other screen. And then also cross-referencing what they were requesting as seeing if it was a renewal replacement, major maintenance, capital improvement projects. And so the renewal replacement is over 50,000. And then the capital improvements is stuff that we're supposed to discuss and update on the Exhibit C and Exhibit B of the lease. Having not been involved with the Exhibit C schedule and doing the research and seeing that that hasn't been done since pretty much anyone that's currently at the borough has not been involved in that, Exhibit B was considered the closest reference that I could compare for current costs. And then fast forward, and so to be clear, that's where you get all your information in the memo. That's what it comes from. And then fast forward, that EMG proposal is actually from Borough Veritas. I got to reach out and talk to a generic person. The person that did this report is no longer with the company, but they were actually hired by Providence in 2020. And on page 4 of that report, they provide what's called a facility condition index, which they took into consideration our setup for the hospital and forecast what they thought was going to be like the 3, 5, and 10-year facility cost analysis. And so you'll see that in the report. And then all the way on page 13 gets into the nuts and bolts, which is the purpose and scope, which they were retained by Providence in order to render an opinion of the property's current physical condition as of the day of the site visit. And there's a bunch of bullet points on exactly all that they've done while they were there. But the most important piece of information that I found out of this was the opinions of probable cost. And so and I'm kind of building up on this so you can understand my thought process more or less, but the opinions of probable cost, they outline as cost estimates, and it's really important to know that these were professional cost estimates that rely on either Marshall and Swift, CB&RE, White House, or RS Means, but they're still preliminary rough order of magnitudes, and that's what you have on the big spreadsheet in front of you, which is Appendix D of that report, beginning on page 53. And so it was a bunch of numbers, and I had no way of validating that if they were accurate or way off in their forecast, because again, this happened in 2020. And so what we decided to do internally is take a known borough project that we had accurate cost for that was something that we could reference from their spreadsheet. And that's what you first see is the green. That is the elevator project that we're working on with Providence. And so our bid split out of that project was $394,875. Or no, I'm sorry. Their 2020 projected 2026 cost was $394,875. Our actual project cost was $437,828.45. So we're only $42,953.45 off from their 2020 projections. So discussed it with the manager, and we collectively agreed that this is a pretty accurate assessment of what the projected costs would be. And an important note that I would call out as you go through this, because I don't want to just bore you by going through all these numbers, but on the last page, they have their markup, 3% annual inflation compounded annually, and then 100% markup for healthcare and 25% Alaska location factor. For all of their costs here, which is really important. And so me being the person that I am involved with projects and some of the responsibilities I have with the engineering and facilities department, my immediate concern is that when you look at this, they were taking the R&R and saying, like, these are all the things that we were supposed to be doing year by year. So when you look at those columns, 2022 to 2026, all that money in those columns are things that we should have been using that money for based on this engineer's study of what the conditions were at the time and the projected life cycle of that equipment. I know Providence has done some of it, but there's some really big things in here that we know we've had some issues with, and there's things that we know that if we don't resolve or work towards, we're going to have critical infrastructure failures, specifically looking at like the roof and some of the structural concerns. But yeah, happy to answer any questions.
Thank you, Cody. We'll start off some questions. Mr. Gardner.
I don't have a question. Can I just go forward?
Go for it.
I feel like when I first joined the assembly, I was saying a lot of the things that Cody is saying exactly today, except he's doing it much more eloquently and much more concisely. In specific, that in the Providence lease, it says that we, as a landlord, are to replace or repair for like or as equipment as they have it. As somebody said, he put it, they want the Ferrari of equipment now. And so one big unit that stands out, and I could sit here and lay them all out, but you guys are going to get real quickly where I'm coming from. It's the same place I always come from. So the air handler expansion, it's way more in scope than what they originally had. And additionally, my big problem here is that we're also supposedly looking at this KCHC expansion, and there seems to be little to no communication between Providence and KCHC between this system and several of the other systems. So I'm really not sure if these guys are talking to each other and whether these things are going to accommodate both tenants of the same building, or if we're going to end up going back and paying more in new design costs just shortly down the road. It is my official position that we should only be giving Providence exactly what repair or replacement costs would be for what we gave them in the beginning. Obviously, we may have to adjust that for inflation, and we want to have a good hospital here, but in my eyes, when they're trying to turbocharge their systems to do more business, well, it seems it's probably because they're doing good business. And while the Benevolent Sisters of Providence may be a non-profit, hospital is big business. Their CEO's last recorded financial disclosure in 2023 was $14.8 million for his salary, and that doesn't include the rest of that board of directors. I think they could probably each take a couple $100,000 pay cut and help turbocharge their own systems. So that's my official stance, and it's going to be a lot harder to back me down on this one than it was daycare.
Anything further? It looks like you're good. Yeah.
I'm fired up on this. A little more coffee.
Anyone else? Questions for or comments for Cody right now? Mr. Ames and then Ms. Roberts.
I guess it's not really for Cody, but by contract, we are supposed to replace like equipment, correct? So for us to pay to have expanded equipment go in, I think they, before we even consider it, need to justify why that should be our cost and not theirs. Parts of it could be that, that type of equipment isn't made anymore. Okay, you have to get a newer, greater version, and then there's no choice. This sort of thing can be discussed, but to just expand and expect us to cover all the cost, I think is a lot. And as Assemblymember mentioned, expanding the community health center and things like that, they need to be responsible for part of it too, if they want it upgraded to include them. And yes, it would be a big mistake to design a system for what is there now if we know for a fact it's going to change greatly, and those systems are going to have to be redone to accommodate the change in building. And some of these numbers are quite scary.
Ms. Roberts.
Just to define replacement and renewal per the lease, it's defined as an exchange of one fixed asset for another that has the same capacity to perform the same function. And I think that's kind of Cody's point with the Ferrari statement, and that's sticking with you, Cody. We remember. So I would like to know what the like-for-like replacement cost is and what the difference is between the Ferrari and the like-for-like replacement. Do we have that?
I think that's what's in the bubbles on your sheet.
Okay.
Yes.
So
Yeah.
the numbers that are on the spreadsheet would be the projected like-for-like with a 3% increase each year. We did have a year with an 8% CPI. Right, so there is room for error for something that's done in 2020. We did not perceive some of the crazy stuff that happened between now and then, so we don't expect them to be right on. But when you look at a project and the difference is 3 million or 2.5 million, I think there's clearly something off in how this fund was created. Now, Providence has said that they realize it too, and they are either going to take on some of these projects themselves or greatly increase their amount that they're putting into the renewal and replacement fund. But I think what we've been looking at through their tracker is just that fund being zeroed out for just those few projects that we have been looking at, where that fund is meant to cover all of this. And so that's where the really large disconnect is. So when we look at the previous years that are on here, there is stuff that was scheduled to be done that is not done that we need to look at. And there is some price variances that I think need to be addressed. And so I was very thankful that Cody found that these bubbles are very enlightening. And the next step has to be having a conversation with Providence. Like, this is not what we did. This is something they did. And so we need to figure out where we were in 2020 and why are we so far away from that in 2026.
Can Can I offer one clarification?
Absolutely.
So I think one major thing to consider, if you go back to that memo and also when Tyler spoke at a previous meeting, that DP6, that is a new installation. That isn't a reference. So on the last page or second to last page of the spreadsheet, I called that out because they only had one D5020, which is a similar 600 amp panel. That had a cost of like 15,750. And so when you're looking at those costs, much similar to like our elevator project, that's considering you're replacing it like in kind in the same position of the facility. And so what really, it scared me a little bit looking at this when we went through the numbers is that DP6 is required for all those other projects. And so it's not even listed on here, so it's a new asset, right? And so like my whole career is built off of capital improvement projects where you're generating new assets for facilities. And so when you look at that, you're adding another item to this list that you're gonna have to maintain and have a life cycle and things like that. But it's important to note that these numbers are purely based on the fact that if you're replacing them in kind in the same location, whereas like the ATSs are in like a new structure on the opposite side of the facility, et cetera, so.
You can
Can I
continue.
keep going?
Yeah.
Okay. So kind of what Amy was hinting towards, talking to Providence to see if cost sharing is something that's possible, where they would make the difference up if they're open to that. I couldn't find it in the lease clearly outlined. There's a lot of things not clearly outlined in the lease, I'm finding.
I don't.
But I think that would be where I would be at, similarly said already, where we were kind of already planning for that estimated cost from 2020, and the difference is pretty astounding.
Ms. Roberts, it's on page 4 of the lease, item C. Any project over 50,000 and not listed on the R&R schedule necessitated by a state or federal facility audit, which I think a lot of these projects are, based on Providence's comments. And not a deferred project may require a lease rate adjustment, and then that's supposed to be discussed between Providence and the owner.
Mr. Smiley and then Mr. Gardner.
The 4 projects that you've got listed in your letter, they are subsequent to 3 projects in the past that were way more expensive, as I recall. It was the RO stuff and the new boilers and everything were in that.
So what happened, it was all part of a big project. When I first came on with the borough, it was known as the SPD, the Sterile Processing Department project, and that had reconfigurations of the OR. They had proposed the RO at the same time, the air handler upgrades and some other nuances with that, and the chiller, I believe, was separate. But they basically did not have enough money for all of that, so they kind of parsed them out into these individual projects.
Well, we told them there wasn't enough money to do it, and so they reconfigured them. But in when I was on the Health Facilities Board, they went through these, and there were all kinds of changes to stuff, new conduit or whatever you call it, venting for the air handler system, and boosting it from 40 cubic inches per minute to 55 or something like that, and yet not taking into account the needs of KCHC at the same time. So I was wondering, how did they get so far off from where we want them to be? Do you have any idea?
So we did not see, just for clarity, and you have an exceptional memory, and I appreciate your attentiveness to HFAB because that's awesome. That was very articulate. The design that was presented at the ARB basically went from the 0 to the 65% when they did the redesign, and that was the transition within the senior management and the coordination and collaboration with the borough. And I think we have a much better working relationship with who's in that seat now.
Yeah, I mean, one of the problems was that they did change all kinds of people in Providence, Kodiak. I don't know about the rest of Providence, but, and at any rate, I think we need a new vision on how to deal with this, and make it clear there are some things we just don't want to pick up. And go ahead.
Did you have a response to Mr. Smiley?
Well, I just wanted to throw into the conversation, nothing bad, that we have partnered with Providence to apply, or we have a letter of interest in for the Rural Health Transformation Program for the Chiller Project, and that's a $4.2 million project. So I don't think we have very good chances to get that because I've heard about the projects from across the state, but we are doing what we can to try to add money into that fund. And so absolutely, we just need to have more conversations with Providence and how they're interpreting. Not only did our local staff change out, but the lead maintenance people, I call them Big Prov, have also changed out, and they have hired new people in, and people have come up. And so I think there just needs to be a recentering of what this lease looks like and what we are committing to versus what they're asking.
Yeah, and a new Alaska
The new
Providence
Alaska
CEO.
CEO as
and
well.
Yeah. Mr. Gardner.
Quick question, quick comment. I think you might have already answered me, but kind of skip by. Let's just talk about the air handler real fast on page 2 of the big spreadsheet here, the big red box. Did you say, so in 2020, the projected 26 total was $225,000? Is what we're thinking about that now, is that adjusted for CPI or inflation?
That's adjusted from
Okay.
2020, 3% each year.
Okay. Okay, so that number is accurate for 26? Ish.
Yes.
Okay. And then quick comment is, I mean, I think they need to really cool their horses on a lot of these because I've talked to people in the maintenance department over there. I'm not going to name names, but before they start talking about turbocharging systems, let's get the roof fixed. Let's worry about things like that because they have all sorts of systems that are about to fail if it keeps leaking. We need to worry about, maintaining the road, so to speak, before we start adding sidewalks and things to it.
So would it be helpful to you if we go through these 4 things one by one? Or are you just looking for just general? I'm trying to get us towards, direction or
We like
something more
direction.
specific
Thank you.
for you.
Yes.
Yeah.
It would be helpful if you had a baseline of what we thought we were going to start, a starting point for negotiations with them or for numbers for us to take to them. I know that they're listening right now, so I won't have to communicate too much. But I think that it will be very helpful to look at each project, look at what this sheet says, so they understand the basis of where we're starting. And I just love that this is not our spreadsheet. I think that part is just fantastic.
Okay, so you're so first let's look at the ATS replacement and then go from there and then move on. Does that work for you? Yeah. Okay. All right. Because I know we all have ideas and feelings about Providence, but I'd also like to kind of get things moving for us. So let's start off with the ATS replacement. You can see Cody's summary there, and it sounds like in general we want to stick to a very kind of, for lack of a better term, conservative interpretation of the lease in these regards too. So let's start off with ATS. Any questions or comments, clarifications that you need about this particular item? Mr. Smiley.
Well, in Cody's letter, he says in the last paragraph regarding the ATS replacement that this would be considered a capital project, meaning that we would not support it. So.
Yes.
I just want to make sure too, I live here, and I go to the hospital, so I want to make sure I'm still allowed there. The numbers that are in your bubbles on the spreadsheet are from that R&R schedule that Providence supplies us, and that's their total rough order of magnitude to see the projects through. But I want to make sure to keep in alignment with rules, the request or for reimbursements just for their design. So those numbers don't directly reflect when you see those differences. That is like holistically whole project, because that was something the assembly asked for. The other numbers, we do have those, but they are much less.
Did you have something else?
Well, so for capital projects in section 20.6 of the lease, it says that they're not funded through the fund unless it's agreed upon by parties incorporated into the agreement by amending the lease and the R&R schedule. So there is pathways in the lease that allow those projects to be done. It's just not a foregone conclusion that those come straight out of the R&R fund. I feel like that's an important distinction. The other thing that I do not understand, and I think we're going to need to trace backwards, is this is just for the cost, because I think the lease sets out that we're doing the design and we are not doing the design, and someone has to pay for that. So if the lease, these numbers are only here for the actual costs, there is still a design cost. If we were managing the projects and paying for the design on our own, I think that the design costs come to us. And so I think we have to keep that in mind, like that. I don't think the lease has set up for Providence to pay for design or the R&R schedule, accordance with this sheet.
Mr. Ames.
This is request for reimbursement of design costs, correct? Now, did a prior assembly agree to funding some of these costs, or is this totally new?
The assembly, your assembly, good sir, has approved the phase gates for design as presented until a few meetings ago when we were like, we're sensing a trend that we're not sure is the right direction. So that when we changed the agenda and took those off of the agenda to give us more time and ask for more documentation, that's when I think we first got the a very strong wake up call that these projects were in a direction that we're not sure that they should be going. And so until that point, everything had been approved by the assembly.
Okay.
Mr. Johnson.
Thank you. And I think because the agenda item that we're specifically discussing is reimbursement for these designs, not the holistic project management process, I, for one, would be willing, because we did approve it to the phase gate, I would be willing to hold my nose and vote to reimburse the costs incurred up to the approved phase gate, with the understanding that there is no money to move these along beyond what was in the agreement and spreadsheet that Providence gave us. If they want to renegotiate their lease to pay for that capital project in accordance with the terms of the lease they signed, that's a great conversation to have. But that's where I would land on it.
Mr. Woods.
I'm going to largely echo Mr. Johnson's comments. I think if we approved it to this point, we kind of got to, it sucks, we're here, but we've got to honor what we've gone through at this point.
Mr. Gardner.
I will agree. Mr. Johnson said that eloquently, but I still have a problem with going past the current phase gate because we know we're having an issue with the proposed KCHC expansion and a lack of communication between the two entities. So what is the point of continuing and paying more without seeing a clear end of the road here?
Yes, Amy.
I think we've started managing that lack of communication or perceived lack of communication between KCHC and Providence. KCHC has been informed that if they are going to expand, they're going to need to add on their own HVAC system. The part that had us worried in that particular design, it was already assumed that they were independent and that design had a way to cut them off. And I do not know their timeline for expansion. I do not know how fast or slow that is going to go. And Cody found it, that we should not be accepting a design that cuts off a part of the building because we do not really know what's going to happen. And I hope that they're successful in their expansion, but if they're not, they still need air. So, we didn't want to make it so, and that's been discussed already, correct, Cody? Yeah.
Mr. Ames?
I think at this point, we need to discuss them one at a time. The generator transfer, I think that has to be designed and done. And so we should definitely, if they're talking about cutting KHC off the air handler and just kind of abandoning them, then I think we need to discuss with Providence, this isn't a workable solution for the building, unless they're going to be able to independently take care of their own issue. So I think we need to, we're talking in broad terms right now. I think we need to talk issue by issue. Thank you.
So what, oh, go ahead.
I just have to make a clarification because it's taxpayers' dollars for most things that I deal with, but this is a enterprise fund, right? And so when we do things in our world, and it's taxpayers' dollars, when we say phase gates, because I know there's a lot of people on a couple of different boards and committees, it gets paid out, I guess, as it's done is the best way to say it. But some of these things have already been reimbursed. And so when we're thinking like at reimbursing to the current phase gate, the way that this was established, and I'm not really sure how we got here with it being an enterprise fund and not taxpayers' dollars, they do the work through the ARB. And so like we just had an ARB meeting, so we don't uphold Providence, but we allow them to continue to move forward and keep doing, I guess, ahead of the schedule, if you will, running on credit, so to speak. And then that's at their risk if it does or doesn't get approved. And they're fully aware of that. But looking back, we did reimburse, for example, and I just picked one out of the mix here, but in this was October 27th of 2025, we did reimburse for the original design for the air handler from 35 to 65. And so like from me being the project manager's perspective, a big concern is like these are redesigns that two existing designs that we've already reimbursed for, which we also reimbursed for the SPD project, which was a part of this original design. So it's like a redesign, if you will. And so I just want to make sure everybody's clear of that when you're discussing kind of like reimbursing to the current phase gate, so to speak.
So for the air handling unit, we paid out at 35%, we paid out again at 65%, and then they went back and redesigned to 65% again. I don't think we should pay for that. We have paid for a design all the way to 65%. There should not be another payment for that 65%. There was no agreement, there was no paperwork, there was no, as far as I know, a healthcare standard change.
We don't oversee them. We don't see the projects. Sorry, the project management office doesn't see the projects, and it depends on who. We have a much better working relationship now, but historically, like we would get the design when they would like the design to go to the ARB, and we would have no idea until that point what had changed on the design, and so then we're playing catch up to try to articulate to the ARB members what changed or what did not change. And sometimes it's a whole new design, as is this case. And that's when I caught the bifurcation of the system and the blockage for KCHC was at that point. And so I would have to have more time to tell you exactly what all things are redesigned. But I would say too that like the DP6, that reimbursement request isn't just a design, that's all the way out to 100% construction and implementation. So it's a little bit more in depth than just reimbursing to the current phase gate.
For the transfer switches, this isn't redesign, right? These are, the 100% is.
No, but
okay.
I would have to tell you what we've reimbursed to.
Well, transfer switches are only at 35%.
Correct. Yeah.
Mr. Garner, Mr. Ames.
Reminder that the transfer switch replacement is not a like or as existing componentry.
Yeah. Thank you. Yeah, Mr. Ames.
I'm going to have to agree with the manager in the fact that if we already reimbursed them for 65%, and then they chose to change to 65% and spend money to have it redone to 65%, we shouldn't pay for the second 65%. That was a decision they made to do on their own. If they'd come to ask and said, we want to change the plans, and we want to, so we're only going to be at 65%, we're going to spend more money, and we want more money from the assembly to cover that, we could have had that discussion. But when they made that decision without us, I feel the liability is on them.
So I'm kind of hearing a blanket, yes, we agree, yeah. No reimbursement for redesigns. Okay. What else? What do we, okay. This is so much, here we go. What other unanswered,
I don't think we have to go detail
Yeah.
by detail through each specific project. I do think that there's a consensus in which we need to reevaluate what we're paying. This spreadsheet is a very good tool
Yeah.
for us.
Yeah.
We are going to have to take into account that there are design costs for this, and unless we're going to change our project model for future projects, then the borough becomes the project manager
Right.
and is paying for the design. Then we'll be shifting those costs to the borough side, and that would still come out of the R&R fund. But I think Cody's explanation of what's R&R and what's a capital project, I think those are all very important, and I think we need to have, not just with their interim hospital administrator, Dr. Loomis, but also with their big project people in Anchorage and talk about what this lease means and how this fund is supposed to be able to cover windows and roofs and all the things, which it is currently not being used in that way.
Mr. Gardner and then Mr. Smiley.
I believe I want to say it was March, and January, valuation, and now that's completely different. But March, we're supposed to have a meeting for budget and all these things with Providence. And if I recall right, I'm looking for it in front of me. I can't find it, but I think the last time we had one of those meetings to develop an established plan together as Providence and the Assembly was 2020 or 2017. For whatever reason, one of those is in my head. But I don't think we've been having those meetings regularly, and obviously that needs to be resolved.
Mr. Smiley and then Mr. Woods.
Do we have a way of asking them or having us move forward on the roof issue there? And how we're going to fix that?
I would have to communicate with them to clearly identify what the roof issue is that was brought up tonight.
Okay, and that's with Tyler?
Yeah.
Okay, thank you.
Mr. Woods.
I think for the sake of clarity, moving forward, we ought to seriously pursue payments in accordance with how our lease is structured. Just straight up, and it's not. And I even like using their forms for estimated amounts. If we're doing in-kind stuff, well, they've given us the number. Let's cap out our contribution at those numbers that they've provided, and the rest of it is kind of on them. Is how I would like to see us move forward as a body.
I'm guessing that Providence will elect to have a new study done with a more reflective CPI instead of just the 3%. And so I mean, I think that would be a good move for everyone to have this spreadsheet updated into 2026. But now that we have this, we will be able to compare apples to apples when those new numbers come in. I would imagine that we'd see something like that from them.
Okay. Did you get what you needed? Kind of.
Yes, I'm part of this is just awareness of what Cody and Patricia have found. Cody's find of this spreadsheet just dramatically changes the conversation.
Sure.
And so We have sent this, by we, I mean Cody has sent this to Providence, and so their facilities maintenance, senior facilities maintenance, people are going over this and looking at this, and I'm sure he's sharing it with the people up above him. This is probably new to them too, so we'll give them some time to catch up. I think inviting the contract folks in from Anchorage and having the folks here come in and sit down and go through the lease with us, and whether that's at a HFAB meeting or some other type of meeting, we'll have to set a date and go through that, but that's going to be next steps.
Okay, thank you so much, Cody. Really appreciate you. Okay, moving on into packet review.
We have, I'm going to ask, since our community development director is here, I'm going to let him come and talk about the Uzinki rezones for public hearing.
As Chris is coming down, we will have a proclamation to look at next week, recognizing April as Second Chance Month for folks re-entering their communities from incarceration or rehabilitation. Sorry, I should have finished that sentence for you. I realize. So, welcoming committee for. And then, okay, yes, then we'll move on to, we'll have a public hearing on the Uzinki rezones, the three of them. This will be our, I think, fourth time looking at these things. Staff report?
Yes. Planning and Zoning Commission, case 26-011, is a rezone application filed by the native village of Uzinki to change the zoning of Uzinki Block 3, Lot 2, from R1 Single Family Residential to B Business. 41 notices were mailed for this case. At the February 18th, 2026 regular meeting of the Planning and Zoning Commission, the Commission recommended approval of this rezoning request by a vote of 5-0 with one member absent and one vacant seat to the Assembly. The future land use map for this property, as depicted in the 2008 Comprehensive Plan, is for public use. However, the PL district does not permit residential use. The business district permits the proposed use, which are 2 vacation homes on the second floor and a child care center on the first floor. The properties across the street are in the mixed-use commercial future land use map designation, and this proposal is in conformance with that designation. Therefore, a change in the land use map to mixed-use commercial seems appropriate. As part of the proposed ordinance, there is a change to the future land use map designation from public use to mixed-use commercial, which is in conformance with KIBC 17205075. And in addition, the proposed ordinance provides findings in support of the rezoning from both the 2008 Comprehensive Plan as well as from the Uzinki Comprehensive Plan from 1984.
Great, thank you. Any questions? All right.
Okay.
Thank you. The next one.
Okay. All right. Planning and Zoning
Let's move
Commission, case 2612, as a rezone application filed by the native village of Uzinki to change the zoning of Uzinki Tract C, Block 1, Parcel 1 of USS 4871 from R1 Single Family Residential to PL Public Use lands. 34 notices were mailed for this case, and at the February 18th, 2026 regular meeting of the Planning and Zoning Commission, the Commission recommended approval of this rezoning request by a vote of 5-0 with one member absent and one vacant seat to the Assembly. The future land use map for this property, as depicted in the 2008 Comprehensive Plan, is for industrial. However, this property was once part of the old airport property at the time of the 2008 Comprehensive Plan, and therefore that particular airport was abandoned and a new airport was constructed further away from the old airport. Therefore, it does seem appropriate to change that future land use map designation to public use, which is similar to the properties that are across the street from this particular property, which are also designated public use in the future land use map. The 2008 plan, the PL district permits the proposed public service uses for the recently completed building on the subject property. As I mentioned, those properties across the street are also in the the public use future land use map designation. As part of the proposed ordinance that's before you, there's a change to the future land use map designation from industrial to public use, which is in conformance with KIBC 17-205-75. And in addition, the proposed ordinance provides findings in support of the rezoning from the 2008 comprehensive plan.
Great. Any questions on this one? Seeing none, all right, you got one more.
Okay. Planning and Zoning Commission Case 2613 is a rezone application filed by Native Village of Uzinki to change the zoning of Uzinki Block 14, Lot 7 from R2 two-family residential to PL public use lands. 49 notices were mailed for this case at the February 18th, 2026 regular meeting of the Planning and Zoning Commission. The commission did recommend approval of this rezoning request by a vote of 5-0 with one member absent and one vacant seat to the assembly. The future land use map designation for this property is for public use, and therefore the proposal is in conformance to the future land use map. In addition, the proposed ordinance provides findings in support of the rezoning from both the 2008 comprehensive plan and the 1984 Uzinki comprehensive plan.
Great. Any questions? All right. Thank you, Director French. All right, the next one we'll be looking at resolutions. Resolution number FY 2026-15, approving certain unincorporated communities and the respective Native Village Council and/or incorporated nonprofit entity for participation in the FY 2027 Community Assistance Program.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. This is an annual resolution which certifies the Native Village of Karluk as an unincorporated community in the Kodiak Island Borough and confirms that they meet the Community Assistance Program eligibility criteria. You'll see a sheet included in your packet tonight where the Tribal Administrator, Alicia Andrew, has filled out and signed verifying that they offer a minimum of 3 of the services required. The Assembly is certifying 2 of the state's programs criteria, that there's a minimum population of 25, which you can see the Department of Commerce, Community and Economic Development statement that they have determined the population of the village at 31 residents. And the assigned requirement and certificate application that I just had you look at is included, and it is. The resolution is something we do every year for Karluk.
Any questions? Seeing none, moving on. We have a couple of ordinances for introduction. The first one, ordinance number FY 2026-01A, amending ordinance number FY 2026-01, fiscal year 2026 budget, by amending budgets and appropriations to account for various revenues that are over budget, providing for additional expenditures, and moving funds between projects.
I believe that you have an update for this one as well, and I didn't give myself one, so I'm going to steal Assemblymember Whiteside's. He's not using it. There we go. This is one of our quarterly budget amendments, and you will see on the new version of what in front of you, there is a new addition when Menasha Bay Road gave their talk tonight. You'll see that they wanted to add $50,000 use of their fund balance. So they will be transferring out of 244 and into 244, which is a kind of a weird way to look at it, but that is how it works. I think the easiest way to walk through this is just to walk through the whereases. And then if you have questions, please let me know. I know that everyone is trying to go fast. This one just takes a long time to go through, and I apologize. We're looking to move $92,934 from the general fund balance to the general fund nonprofit funding department for additional nonprofit funding as approved by the resolution fiscal year 2605. That's the additional nonprofit funding that the Assembly gave above what was budgeted in fiscal year 26. We're also requesting a transfer of $120,000 from the Buildings and Ground Fund to the Capital Funds Projects Fund Annex Building UST Removal Project in order to comply with the State of Alaska's Department of Environmental Conservation. That's something the Assembly has already approved as well. Line 19 on the new version, you're going to see that's the addition of Menasha Bay Road Service requesting the transfer of $50,000 from their fund balance for planned spring maintenance and construction projects. We're asking to return $785,750.09 from the Capital Projects Fund Kodiak Fisheries Research Center to decontamination project back to that fund due to a change in the scope of the project. This is I asked for a permit change to take out the requirement for the dechlorination system because we have never tested over the chlorine limits. And you can see that we're saving $785,000 because they agreed to the permit change. That's already been through the public process comments, and that is a done deal. So we're taking that money out and putting it back in. We are requesting a return of $14,705.81 from the Kodiak Fisheries Fume Hood Project back into the Research Center Fund due to the completion of a project. We are requesting the return of $39,316.21 from the Chiniak Water System Project back to the Building and Grounds Fund due to completion of the project. We are requesting the return of $92,523.56 from the Capital Projects Fund from the Borough Building Abatement and Mechanical Upgrade Project to the Building and Ground General Fund due to the completion of the project. We're requesting a transfer of $70,000 within the R&R Fund for the community pool evaluation repairs and project to continue with the design phase, including destructive testing of the community pool facility, which was just approved. And we are requesting the transfer of $463,334.94 from the Renewal Replacement Fund to the Mental Health Buildings Abatement and Remediation Project to provide final payment and complete that project. We're almost done. We're requesting the return of $332,354.74 from the Capital Projects Fund Landfill Scale Shack platform back to the Solid Waste Collection Disposal Fund due to the Assembly's rejection of the contract for the project. And we're requesting transfer of $115,000 from the Solid Waste Collection and Disposal Fund to the Capital Projects Fund for the leachate, aeration, and LTP pretreatment upgrades project due to the completing the final stages of the project. And finally, we're requesting the transfer of $26,000 from the hospital fund to the Capital Projects Fund Long-Term Care Land Farm Project to continue the management and remediation of the hospital-generated fuel contaminated spill. At line 66 in this new version, you will see what money is moving from what fund to what fund. I think that is confusing, so I think it is. And the agenda statement, while everything on there is true, I don't think it really explains very well which projects and then the information about those projects. So hopefully the longer version helps you understand what cleanup we're doing. And I'm really proud of that decontamination or dechlorination project. That was everyone kind of thought that DEC would not back off about that, and it took a little while, but I'm really happy that change happened and we didn't have to do that project.
Great, thank you. Any questions for the manager?
And
Okay.
this is an ordinance, so you will see it 4 times. This is time number 1. And Seema will get to tell you all about it next week because she will
Fantastic.
be here.
Next ordinance up is FY 2026-23, accepting and appropriating funds from the 2020 Prince William Sound, Pink, and Coho Salmon Fisheries Disaster Relief Distribution.
Thank you. When a federal fishery disaster is declared, direct federal assistance may be provided to fishing communities in the form of grants, direct payments, cooperative agreements, loans, or contracts to help offset the economic loss associated with the event. On May 9th, 2023, the U.S. Secretary of Commerce made a disaster determination for the Alaska Copper River Prince William Sound fishery. NOAA allocated $15,730,357 to address losses to affected areas. Our cut of that will be $11,595.50. You're seeing this as an ordinance because there is no specific fund that money goes into. As we have with our recent fisheries disasters money, we plan on putting all of that into the Fisheries Economic Development Fund.
Any questions? Okay, and finally, confirmation of the mayoral appointment of Mr. Lucas Smith to the Architectural and Engineering Review Board for a term to expire December 31st, 2028.
I don't have anything to add. Thank you.
I spoke to Mr. Smith a couple of times. He has board experience, and of course, is very familiar with the industry, and was surprisingly excited to to join the board. So so I really appreciate Mr. Smith stepping up there. Any questions? All right, that's it for packet review. Going back to the work session agenda, clerk's comments.
It's getting late, so I just want to let you know that I emailed you my clerk's report, and I also distributed some paper copies. Don't forget the Starry Night that's happening this Saturday for those who have signed up. I'll be taking some time off next week, so please reach out to Lena or Irene if you need anything while I am out. With that, happy Easter, everyone, and hoping that spring comes soon. Thank you.
Thank you. Any questions for Nova? I have just one. I assume your office has been tracking some of the changes that might be coming down to mail-in ballots and.
Yes, we are tracking the changes with the IDs, the required IDs for when voting. So we are tracking those, and also the changes. There is a House bill also that pertains to records, so we're tracking both of those, elections and records. Yeah. There's two that were emailed out to us the past few days. Thank you.
Thank you. Assembly member comments. We'll start down on the end with Mr. Woods.
This is a long one. I'm not going to bore you guys with my comments.
Oh, come on. Thank you. Ms. Roberts.
Good night.
Mr. Ames.
No comment.
Mr. Smiley.
I actually will not be here next Thursday, and I have notified the clerk's office. Be visiting family and friends.
Great. Dr. Smiley.
I'm happy that we're discussing the Providence issue. I think it's something that we have been avoiding for a long time. I think we need to get down to brass tacks on that. I'm also pretty happy that we're talking about North Star. It's been an empty building for a year, and it needs to have human beings in it. And we really do need the childcare.
Mr. Johnson.
Ditto to what he said.
Mr. Gardner.
As always, I appreciate working with all of you guys. I especially appreciate the conversation about North Star and the child care and you guys backing me down into the light of day. I think you all made really good points, and, I like that you can bend me. I appreciate that. And I take a second to point out how much Cody worked on the Providence thing. I appreciate that as well as the rest of you, but that in particular. Thanks. Have a great night.
Yep. I agree with everything said here. Just a couple of things like Manager Williams mentioned. We met with Rob and John from Alaska Aerospace and got a lot more information about what is going to be going on, or what they're planning on going on is going to go on out there. They're looking at like 20 million this year, 30 million next year, 45 million the year after that. It's going to be massive, or it's likely going to be pretty massive. So I think that helped put some things into scope about, we talked about all sorts of things, maintaining access to the recreational areas out there, obviously. Potential barge dock out there at Passaic Shack, and a potential 8,000-foot runway also out there. So the next few years are going to be pretty, active. It's going to be a competition to see who gets these big, large Golden Dome contracts. But of course, our biggest interest was to get them on our side to help to get us and the Coast Guard really as part of the defense infrastructure program that we are not part of right now, but we should be. And they're going to hopefully hook us up with somebody as part in that program who can help get us through some of these hurdles, and that's going to open up a lot of infrastructure money for us in the city. So we're working hard on that. I also met with the new CEO of Alaska Providence, and very, very new. She's only been on the job just for a couple of weeks. And so it's just kind of a meet and greet. But yeah, we talked about the envelope. We talked about the lease. They understand. She knows about the the staffing concerns. She knows about the community communication concerns also, and how we need to be, our Providence can be a better partner in telling their story and helping these things. So with the new people in place, I'm feeling very encouraged. And so we should, like Mr. Johnson and Mr. Smiley said, yeah, we should definitely keep these going. And then just want to say just how much I appreciate the people affected by the government shut down, our Coast Guard personnel and especially our TSA agents who are getting hit really hard. So appreciate them, and I hope we can get through that soon. Arts Council auction this weekend. My Shakespeares are doing their showcase this weekend. A lot of good stuff going on this spring. So hope to see you out and about this weekend. Have a good day. And with that, we're adjourned.
And I'd like to thank the airlines. They told Congressman, you made it hard on us, no more privileges, get in line with the rest of them.
Saw that.
I like that.
What are you voting for?